Hey y'all, Mike with Cardboard Kingdom. Welcome back to another Disney Lorcana market update video. Today we are going to take a look at some gorgeous art, and then we are really going to buy in and talk about kind of what some of the what ifs within Lorcana. Lately we've been focusing on the Rudy video a lot, right, and some of the hate and feedback and comments I've been getting on my videos from that community. A lot of dislikes, right? A lot of people that are out and about against Lorcana. Today we're going to buy into the hype. We're going to really talk about some exciting things that are going on, and we're going to just talk about some what if scenarios, right, or kind of dream scenarios that could happen, right, that are within the realm of possibilities. So with that being said, I wanted to start it off. This is a post by First220 on Twitter. Michael Skinner. He's a competitive player. He's got almost 700 followers on Twitter. All things Disney Lorcana. I think he's competitive player, content creator, etc. Took a picture, I would assume, of his binder. I mean, my God, this is gorgeous. When I saw this thing, I was like, holy shit. I have never been to one of, as you guys know, I'm very much a collector, not a player. Haven't been to any in person like signings or events or anything like that. But these artists that Lorcana commissioned to do these artworks are amazing. I'm a huge fan of Nicholas Cole. He's one of my favorite artists. I have a binder pages dedicated to his work within Lorcana. I follow him on Twitter. He does some awesome stuff on the side with other projects. But these people who did these artworks are awesome. Like the doodles on these cards are insane. I am the people that know me. Like I write like a third grader. My artistic ability like when God was like filling up my glass of like what to make Michael artistic ability, anything to do with handwriting, steady hands, art, etc. was left at the door. So I'm always amazed when I can see people who have the creative freedom to do these things. My daughter is actually a really good artist in my opinion. She's 5, but I like love her art. Like once again, I could never like it was trying to get me to even color in the lines was a stretch. So seeing stuff like this was amazing. I really, really hope that I'm able to get out to some of these events in the future and get like my cards like kind of doodled on. Like all of these just look so awesome. And this is like unrelated. Like I was really just like soaking this in. Like I think this is gorgeous. Um, but this is another thing that like Lorcana just has going for it. Ravensburger did not put any restrictions on their artists as of right now that I'm aware of in terms of like doodles, signing, things like that. Pokemon has very, very strict restrictions um, on their artists. They can't do a lot of doodles. They can't do a lot of signings. It's only at very sanctioned events. They can only do a limit. Like sometimes they don't even allow trading cards. It is under very much lock and key because Pokemon owns that IP and they are very, very strict on where and when it can be used. It seems like Ravensburger right now is a little more lenient, and so you can go to these events, you can do these signings. I know Nicholas Cole, the artist that I mentioned previously, he tweets when he's going to be at events and have tables and things like that. So I'm just a huge fan of this. Like I think it truly does level up the card. The artists do amazing work, and I was just blown away by this binder page. So shout out to Michael Skinner, First220. This is one of the most beautiful things I've seen in Lorcana to date. So cheers to him. Great work. Okay, now getting into some of the hype side of things. Now, I need to preface this with this is not a sign to FOMO in. This is not a sign that things are going to be nuclear overnight. This is not go out and get over leverage. So then you have a bunch of interest payments coming due. This is just me reinforcing what I believe to be true and what I believe to be the future of Lorcana. Um, and so we're going to talk about a couple things that have been exciting that have happened lately that I think will have some positive market effects. It's not going to change anything overnight, right? It's still the long game. We're still very much looking at things from a very long time horizon here. But at the end of the day, I think this could have an impact in the short term, and it's just exciting to talk about. So the first thing was the owner of Labyrinth. I'm going to be completely just transparent. I do not know how to pronounce that, so I'm not even going to try. But here's his @ on Twitter if you want to follow him. Labyrinth is a competitive TCG. They're very successful within Lorcana. I know they have some content creators and things like that. Huge shout out to those guys. But he said, I saw Shroud ripping some MTG packs on stream, mentioned Lorcana in his chat and his stream, and chat did a complete 360 and went down the Lorcana rabbit hole. Now he's looking at buying 6 cases of the first chapter. He mentioned going to his LGS and buying their entire stock, LOL. And that was tweeted, today's the 10th. That was roughly 12 hours ago from now, last night. And so, like, this is just like the very, very tip of the iceberg. Someone like Shroud, obviously a huge content creator, huge FPS gamer, one of the greatest aims to ever come out of NA. Huge Shroud fan from back in the CS days. He has 2 million followers on Twitter. He's probably got a huge YouTube following who watches him stream. I don't know where he streams at, if it's Twitch or whatever. Twitch, okay. So YouTube, he's got 6.8 million on Twitch. 11 million. So, like, just to kind of put it in scope of like how big this guy is, when you think of like PokeRev from the Pokemon side of things, he has what, like 1 million followers, and I'm not, well, I don't want to get ahead of myself, but this is a whole different level, right? Getting exposure for Lorcana at something like this scale of Shroud is insane. Now look, he's an FPS gamer. He's not going to be out making Lorcana content. He's not going to be, becoming some Lorcana, TCG player, right? I would bet. Who knows? But at the end of the day, that gives you an idea. Like, he's got 11 million followers on Twitch, and he had no clue Lorcana existed. As soon as he found out about it, he's like, I'm going to go buy out my entire store. Like, that's the type of like Black Swan events that haven't really happened with Lorcana that has the opportunity to happen, right? And so this isn't, once again, I'm not saying that Shroud is going to go out and change the entire market. He's not going to go out and first chapter is going to go to 1,000 tomorrow. That's not going to happen. But these are the things that, like, this growth that we've experienced so far within Lorcana is incredibly organic. There are very, very few collectors when it comes to the people that are, a lot of the people are playing the game, right? They don't really necessarily value the alt arts as much. That's why they're incredibly cheap. And so, like, the collector side of things, the alt arts and the things like that we're looking at within my channel and in my mindset, like, this stuff has kind of been brushed to the side, and the prices that they're at right now are after significant retraces, significant restocks, and not a huge focus in terms of collectors, right? Ravensburger is very, very focused on the players, which I think is in turn going to lead to collectors coming in on the back end of that. But at the end of the day, the collectors haven't really been catered to at all, and there hasn't really been a lot of focus on that from Ravensburger's point of view. So something like this, Shroud putting that on the map can change the price of these alt arts pretty dramatically. We'll look at like how many are listed and compare it to some Pokemon side of things. But at the end of the day, this is just very exciting, right? This is, who knows what the possibilities are for something like this. Whenever you keep in mind like kind of the Shroud angle with 11 million followers on Twitch, multiple million on Twitter, etc., right? This huge reach. He finds out about Lorcana, he's immediately into it. We then also yesterday had Cool Trainer Ryan. I'm sure anyone who's watching my videos know who CTR is. He's a Pokemon YouTuber with over 100,000 subscribers. He's been doing Pokemon content for a very long time. He opened a box of the first chapter yesterday, pulled the Aladdin, which was hilarious because in the intro to the video, he's talking about how Aladdin's one of his favorite cards, or one of his favorite like Disney IPs, favorite cards. He would really love to pull it. Go figure, dude opens a box, streamer, YouTuber look, whatever, pulls the Aladdin, right? Go figure. Probably like, I mean, what the possibility of that's probably like 0.1%. Like, it's so minuscule, but CTR does it. Here we are. But he pulls an Enchanted, and he is like all about it. Whenever I recommend going to watch the video. He's very excited. The video is doing very well, has over 1,000 likes already. But what I was blown away by is that this video, 19 hours old, right? We're not even a day old. It's got 587 comments already. And it is like 99.9% positive. And this is a major shift. And I want to make sure I emphasize this, because whenever I started opening Lorcana with my daughter late 2023, At that time, I was I was still fresh getting back into the hobby, but at that time I had mostly opened like Pokemon, a lot of like WotC stuff, things like that from my childhood. And I would go into these Pokemon streams and just like ask everyone's thoughts on like, what do you guys think about Lorcana, whether it was just the chat or the streamer, etc. And the feedback was overwhelmingly negative. I was getting like bashed every time I mentioned Lorcana. These people wanted nothing to do with it, whether it was a Disney thing, whatever. It was not popular, and that's anecdotal, right? But I can tell you that this was on multiple occasions. This happened. This was not just a one-time thing. Like, it was a decent sample size where I would bring it up, and like majority of the people, there were definitely some that were on board, but the majority of people were like, Lorcana sucks, no chance, it's gonna die, just for scalpers, blah blah blah, and they just kind of wrote it off. That sentiment has without a doubt changed, and you can see that here in Cool Trainer Ryan's videos. His comments are, I mean, look how long this page is. Hundreds and hundreds of people, all of them are saying like, what live did you open Lorcana? Pretty cool to see. Spam. Watching you open it makes me want to turn to the dark side and buy a box. Like, there's a lot of this sentiment of people who were outright out on Lorcana. They see someone like CTR open a box, and then they're in, right? And that's all they need. Then they start seeing the nostalgia. They start to see the IP. They see how beautiful the artwork is. And then you start to have these collectors come from these other TCGs that right now they've kind of written off, right? Obviously, there's a little bit of crossover. I'm speaking at a high level, but a lot of people have been outright against Lorcana. We saw that with the Rudy video. I'm still getting comments on that video, like calling me a dumbass and saying Lorcana's going to die. This stuff has not happened yet. The growth within Lorcana is very, very organic. And so I just want to, keep that in mind as you're thinking about making your purchases. Once again, do not FOMO in, do not overextend yourself. But I think this speaks to the overall sentiment of Lorcana. It's becoming a lot more of a household name. It's becoming a lot more respected within the TCG space. I think people are starting to learn that it's here for the long run and it's not just a flash in the pan, right? And so those of us who dipped our toe in earlier and realized what Lorcana was, this has a potential to be very rewarding for us, because as the masses start to come into Lorcana, it's going to change the landscape of the collector space. It's going to change the landscape of the game. And at the end of the day, this is something that we have not seen yet, right? And so I think it's just cool. This combined with the Shroud thing, with the Disney IP, with Ravensburger 100+ year track record, like, there's so much that is still out there. And so I really wanted to kind of speak on that for a minute and just kind of talk about some of the possibilities. Interesting that this video from 5 days ago, it's got 22,000 views and 878 comments. The Lorcana video had almost 600, and it's not even a day old yet. So to talk about like the feedback and his community responding, it's pretty cool to see, right? So it's just exciting. So that's something that I wanted to mention there. And then kind of the icing on the cake of like thinking about, well, what could that mean like from a pricing standpoint, right? And collecting and things like that. Because once again, I firmly believe that Ravensburger, they have a player centered focus, a player minded focus, and that is the right focus for them. They should not be selling to people like Rudy who have no stake in the game and have no way to offer organized play and things like that. They go through LGSs who offer organized play so that way they can get people into the game, enjoy the mechanics of the game and things like that. I think that's the only way to go about it. I think they're doing a great job there. When we talk about the overall popularity of Lorcana and the alt charts and the things like that, like, I mean, we're talking about like sub 10% of what Pokemon is, and as it should be, right? Pokemon's been around for 30 years, iconic IP. Lorcana's not even a year old, right? So like, I'm not saying they should be comparable, they definitely should not. But when you start to look at people like CTR coming on board, people like Shroud coming on board, and Lorcana really getting out to the masses, right now it's still very much under a rock. But when you think about it getting out to the masses at the current like print quantities and growth that it's had thus far, it starts to really open the possibilities of what these cards could do from a long-term perspective as it relates to collecting, investing, etc. We compare the first chapter to something like Evolving Skies. look, this isn't necessarily an apples to apples comparison, but it gives us a good idea of like pricing, listings, things like that. They're very similar. When you look at like the Umbreon, for example, or the Moonbreon, $700, the lowest listing right now, 864 market, and there is 69 listings. We compare that to the Elsa, 810 lowest listing, 1,000 market price, 39 listings. So it's like, if Umbreon was down to like 39 listings, it'd probably be around the same like market price, right? So like there's a general, you can get, it's a close correlation, right? The second card in Evo Skies, the Rayquaza VMAX for Stitch for Chapter 1, 260. Rayquaza 266 listings, Stitch 45. And this also goes into account if you take out the alternate language listings like the Japanese, Chinese, Korean, whatever it is. Umbreon's probably closer to what Elsa is, to be completely honest, in terms of overall listings, and that price is probably pretty similar. But these sets are pretty similar in terms of overall value, but they are right now with the current demand for what each set has. But there is nowhere near the supply of the first chapter boxes for Lorcana as there is for Evo Skies. Evo Skies has been reprinted like multiple times. It's one of the most popular modern Pokemon sets of all time. A price per box right now, I think, is what here? $700 for a booster box. Values are pretty similar for Lorcana, but you can still get a box for $220 right now. And so I think if you put into context of it's got nowhere near the demand that Pokemon has right now, but it's not printed anywhere near the supply. If we even see a small uptick in terms of the amount of collectors and speculators in the space, Evo Skies is $700 right now. The first chapter is $220. So that leaves like a very wide range of price discrepancy, despite a lot of the hits being in they're at a similar price point, right? So as these people like Shroud and CTR and PokeRev or PokeVault and these guys start to do Lorcana content, this is going to shoot back up to that $300 kind of all-time high that we saw back in March before the restock. Like, it's going to get there sooner rather than later if this continues to happen. The price points for the cards have seen this huge retrace, and they're starting to kind of level off or creep back up a little bit. Mostly level off, still possible retraces ahead, but this gives us a good idea of what the potential of this box is. Like, can it get to 700 in the next couple years? I think that's completely feasible. And we've seen a discount yesterday for whatever reason, whether it was a restock or whatever happened. Some boxes going below 200. Now, keep in mind, these did not have shipping involved. With shipping, they were around like 210, 205, 210. But we're already back up to 220 with one box, and we're back to 225. And just to speak on the volume, yesterday alone, I mean, we almost had a full day of sales data just yesterday on 7/9. We almost had a full day of data. Like, you almost had to expand the screen just to get more based on the sales yesterday. So the demand has not wavered at all. There are still people looking for this box. There are still people that need to open it for playable cards. There are still people chasing the Elsa or whatever alt art, right? A smaller percentage of those than the actual players. But there's a lot of correlations here between Evolving Skies and Disney Lorcana, the first chapter. And I feel like there's a chance, right? It's in the realm of possibility that we get to that 300 mark and higher sooner than maybe we thought, if we do start to see these other people come into the market, collect the cards, speculate on it as an investment, flip, scalp, whatever. More and more people coming into the marketplace, we could see some irrational gains here at the 220 price point. And quite frankly, I just think this is a safe entry point regardless. Whether you're coming from Pokemon, whether you've been in Lorcana and watching my videos, like 220 for the first chapter, this is what it was when it was restocked 2 months ago. So getting it 2 months later at the same price, that makes a lot of sense, especially when we had already seen it go back to 240 for like a couple weeks. And then, whatever event happened where we started to see it kind of be restocked or whatever it is, it's getting eaten up fast, and it's got a lot of potential. Now, when we talk about the singles and the price points for those specific cards, I do want to point out that any slight increase in demand for the cards and going into like increase in collectors specifically could really cause some disproportionate gains on these cards. and some pretty crazy spikes. Right now, we are still in the world where these cards have retraced dramatically. Whether you're looking at the Elsa, we are at like $1,500 all time high for a near mint copy. You look at the Stitch, I think it was close to like maybe like 500-600. 500 market price for a near mint copy at its all time high. You know, we're cutting half on that. We pretty much 50%ed it. Pretty much all the enchanteds across the board. Now that came with an additional restock, right? So more supply hit the market. That made complete sense. But when you look at the population of these cards and compare it to something like an Evo Skies, and once again, this is not apples to apples. The demand for Pokemon is at least like 20 to 30 times what it is for Lorcana right now, right? So there's a reason why the price of the Elsa is similar to the Moonbryon, despite the Moonbryon being printed 20x, there's 20x demand, right? But just to put it into comparison, if you do believe like I do that Lorcana is going to be part of the future of the trading card game hobby, and that Elsa is the grail or the chase of the initial kind of wave here of Lorcana, when you start to think about the demand growing and how many truly are in existence, when you look at the Moonbryon, there are over 12,000 of these in existence in a PSA 10 gem mint grade. Over 16,000 have been graded in total at PSA. When you look at the first chapter for Elsa, there are 1,600 PSA 10s in existence. Just over 2,000 have been graded in total. So you're talking about, you know, a sixth roughly of the supply, and probably honestly there's probably less than a sixth of the demand for the overall card. But just like, you know, when you look at this and you think about how many Elsas are in existence and that demand growing with these other speculators coming into the market, like we could see this card get back to all-time highs and even higher, maybe quicker than what we originally thought, right? I was thinking like next year we're going to see it get back to like its all-time highs once the restocks are fully flushed out. We're into new sets. Lorcana continues to do what it does with just organic growth without any of these CTRs or Shroud or whatever, any of these like bigger like Black Swan events or kind of cult followings coming in. You know, I would say probably like a 12 months from now would be a reasonable time for Elsa to be back at its all-time high. Maybe even longer than that, maybe 1 to 2 years. But whenever events like this happen, like it truly could get back to the all-time high of that, you know, 1,300. I know for a fact for a while there it did get up to 1,500 raw. I think it was like 1,500 near mint. Maybe we didn't get a lot of purchases there. There definitely were a few, but basically, I mean, you guys get the picture here that I'm trying to paint. Everything that's happened within Lorcana is just pure organic growth. Ravensburger hasn't even started their marketing strategies yet. We haven't had a single national event yet. We haven't had a single Worlds event yet. Like, we are just on the, I mean, we are a startup amongst startup. You know, it is very early days here. And if you share that same conviction that I do, and you believe that these people are going to start to come on board, that the hate is going to wane, and we're going to start to see the market kind of shift to where you have the Magic following commenting on every video, Lorcana's dead, blah, blah, blah. You have me going into chats asking about Lorcana 6 months ago and getting like attacked and basically just kind of saying the same thing the Magic people are saying now versus, you know, now Cool Trainer Ryan posts a video and, you know, we see hundreds and hundreds of comments of feedback, people saying like, oh wow, I had no clue, this is awesome, or I knew this was out there, I had no interest in it because it's Lorcana, but seeing CTR, like, now I might join the dark side or whatever. Like, some of this stuff can cause major swings in the market, and I could not be happier with how Ravensburger's handled the supply, handled getting these players on board, handled that player first focus. I think that it's going to reward the collectors who are able to get these cards at the prices you see today. A year from now, it could be dramatically different, right? There's not a lot of these cards out there, like 39 listings for the Elsa. Someone like Shroud or CTR or PokeRev or whoever, like, it could change very dramatically, very quickly. And that's, once again, this is not to say to FOMO, stay within your means. This could have no immediate effect on the market. But it's just like cool to think about what could be, right? I'm not really making any purchase decisions based off of the last 24 hours of Shroud and CTR and things like that, I don't think it's going to move the market that quick, like in terms of like I need to go buy something right now or else I'm not going to be able to get my hands on it. But at the end of the day, just overall very exciting for possibly what could be. So that's what I wanted to make today's video about. It was really exciting seeing CTR open it. Had a lot of really good things to say. The comments, the feedback was amazing. You then look at Shroud talking about buying out his entire store and going online and buying 6 cases immediately. And then obviously the artwork and the fundamentals that have made Lorcana what it is and what have given me hope for the last 6 months of like kind of prognosticating what is to come. I feel like we're in a golden era right now, and I truly believe that. I think that Lorcana is just on a rocket ship, whether it's still getting gassed up, whether it's starting to take off, whether we're halfway up, who knows. But at the end of the day, I just think that it's been an exciting last 24 hours. Wanted to share that with you guys. Very exciting about the prospects of the future. Once again, don't over leverage yourself. Don't go buy 21st chapter boxes that you're going to be paying interest on and you're just sitting there waiting like, oh, nope, Mike said that it's going to the moon. When is this going to happen? I don't know when it's going to happen. I just know that I'm very excited. I know that a lot of really cool things are happening, and I wanted to share that with you guys today. So with that being said, we'll be back with another video soon. Please comment down below. Let me know what you thought about the CTR video. Let me know if you're new to Lorcana. Are you finding out about Lorcana from Shroud, from CTR, from whatever else source? Did you see it in Target? Like, give me your feedback on how long you've been around and how you found Lorcana. I'm very interested to see what that looks like. My numbers on my videos are definitely going up. Now that I don't know if that speaks to, I made a Rudy video. He's got hundreds of thousands of subscribers, so I probably milked a lot of content from that. Or is that Lorcana growing and more people looking to speculate and collect these cards? Who knows? Regardless, I want to hear your guys' feedback below, and we'll be back with another video soon. Bye, guys.